December 14, 1942, 0347 hours, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The rain has stopped, but the steel Marston matting still steams like a skillet iron. Mosquitoes the size of .50 cal slugs swarmed the single trouble light hanging from the wing of P-38F, serial 4212647. Technical Sergeant James "Rusty" Kowalski is flat on his back in the mud, one boot braced against the starboard nacelle, twisting 0.040-inch safety wire with a pair of battered clines. The cigarette behind his ear is soaked through. He doesn't notice. Every few seconds the horizon flashes white, Japanese cruiser searchlights sweeping the slot, looking for the nightly torpedo boat run. The thunder you feel in your chest isn't thunder. Rusty's knuckles are raw. He has done this same illegal treble clef wrap on 14 turbo-supercharger wastegate linkages tonight. The Allison manual calls for 0.032 wire, double twist, no exceptions. Rusty's version looks like a sailor's knot on steroids. Captain Thomas Lanphier, Jr., 6 kills already, the hottest pilot in the 339th, walks up barefoot, flight suit unzipped to the waist, carrying 2 warm cans of Australian beer. "You're going to get us shot by our own inspectors, Kowalski." Rusty doesn't look up. "Better than getting shot by Zeros, sir." Lanphier pops a beer, hands it down. Rusty drinks half in one pull. "Explain it to me again," Lanphier says, in English this time. Rusty wipes his mouth with the back of a hand that's more grease than skin. "When some kid with 90 hours total time seizes 0 on his 6 and slams both throttles through the gate, the factory wire snaps, wastegates blow wide open. Manifold pressure drops from 60 inches to 30 in half a heartbeat. The lightning stalls, spins, and the kid dies screaming. My wire doesn't snap. Kid keeps 60 inches all the way through the loop. 0 can't turn with that. Simple." Lanphier looks at the treble clef twist, gleaming silver under the lamp. "That's it? A piece of wire? That's it. Stupidest miracle you'll ever see." A klaxon begins to wail across the field. Condition red. Betty bombers inbound. Pilots stumble from tents pulling on Mae Wests. Lanphier drains his beer, crushes the can under his heel. "Dawn patrol's mine tomorrow. Put your witchcraft on my bird, Rusty. If I come back with 8 kills instead of 6, first round at the officers' club is on me." Rusty grins, teeth white against the black grime. "Bring me back a rising sun flag, Captain. I'm fresh out of wallpaper." Lanphier jogs toward the revetments. Rusty watches him go, then turns back to the wastegate. Far overhead, the first Japanese navigation lights wink on, green and red fireflies descending through broken cloud. Rusty twists the final loop, snips the wire clean, and whispers to the twin Allisons like they're skittish horses. "Tomorrow, girls, tomorrow we teach those bastards what 2,850 horsepower really feels like." The trouble light flickers once as the first string of anti-aircraft bursts stitches the sky. The boy who should have died at 900 hours. December 15, 1942, 8858 hours, 23,000 feet above the Solomon Sea, 120 miles northwest of Guadalcanal. The sun is a white hammer. The ocean below is hammered tin. Second Lieutenant Rex T. Barber, 25 years old, 93 hours in the P-38, is sweating through his cotton T-shirt despite the -30 cockpit. His Lightning, serial 4212657 Miss Virginia, is one of Rusty Kowalski's treble clef birds. He doesn't know that yet. He just knows the throttles feel different. Coast Watcher Martin Clemens' cryptic radio call crackled through at 0730 hours. 2 Betty bombers escorted by 20+ Zeros, course 315, Angels High, important passenger. Cactus Air Force scrambled everything with wings. Now the 16 P-38s of the 339th are strung out in 4 staggered flights, climbing hard on 44 inches of mercury. Barber is Blue 4, tail end Charlie in Tom Lanfear's element. Lanfear's voice, calm as Sunday church, comes over the radio. Cactus Red leader, tally-ho. Bandits 11 o'clock high, coming down like express trains. Drop tanks now. Let's go get 'em. 16 belly tanks tumble away, glinting as they fall. Barber yanks his salvo handle so hard the cable almost snaps. The Japanese formation is textbook. 2 G4M Bettys in Vic, fat and silver, 24 Zeros in layered weaves above and below. The Zeros haven't seen the Lightnings yet. They're fat, happy, and about to die. Lanfear rolls inverted, splits S, and the entire strike dives in a blue waterfall of twin booms. Barber shoves both throttles past the detent, way past, into the emergency military power range Rusty's wire was built to survive. Factory birds would be coughing and dying right now. Miss Virginia just snarls louder. Manifold needles kiss 66 inches and stay there. Barber feels the airframe shake like it's alive and furious. The first Zero fills his gun sight, roundels crisp, canopy glinting. Barber's thumb mashes the trigger. 4.5 Zeros and 120 mm in the nose spit a hose of fire. The Zero snaps in half, wings folding like broken kite sticks. Barber is already rolling, hunting the next. Below, the lead Deddy is jinking hard, rear gunners hosing tracers into empty sky. Lanfear and his wingman, First Lieutenant Besby Holmes, are glued to its tail, cannons flashing. The second Betty breaks left, straight into Rex Barber's windscreen. Barber hauls Miss Virginia into a 7G turn that blacks the edges of his vision. The G-suit isn't invented yet. Only the Lightning's twin engines and Rusty's stupid little wire keep him conscious. The Betty grows huge. Barber walks his bursts from tail to cockpit. The left engine erupts in orange fire. The bomber rolls belly up, one wing shearing off. But the escort Zeros are awake now. 6 of them drop on Barber from 6 high, throttles firewalled, 20 mm cannons twinkling. Barber's mouth goes dry. In any other P-38, this is where the story ends. He slams both throttles full forward again, snaps into a vertical split S that rips the airframe past 500 knots indicated. The wastegates never flinch. The Allisons keep pouring out 1,425 horsepower each like it's personal. The Zeros try to follow. They can't. The tightest turning fighter in the Pacific suddenly can't turn with a twin-engine, 14-ton American monster that refuses to bleed power. Barber reverses at the bottom, climbs straight back through the middle of the 6 Zeros, guns blazing. 2 explode. 1 spins away trailing smoke. The other 3 break off in pure panic. On the RT, someone is laughing, high, shocked, almost hysterical. It takes Barber a second to realize it's him. Lanfear's voice cuts in, tight with triumph. Cactus, splash 2 Bettys, 8 Zeros and counting. Whoever's flying Miss Virginia, you just broke physics. Buy that crew chief a brewery. Barber looks at his manifold gauges still pegged at 66 inches, then at the empty ocean where 2 Japanese bombers and their passenger used to be. He keys the mic, voice shaking. Tell Rusty his stupid wire just saved my life. Far away, Henderson Field's control tower can already see the victors returning. 16 Lightnings, fuel tanks bone dry, guns smoking. Each pilot flying like the laws of aerodynamics have been rewritten overnight. But one of those pilots is about to discover that the most important man on Guadalcanal doesn't even carry a sidearm. December 15th, 1942, 10:37 hours, Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The first P-38 touches down with a screech of rubber and a triumphant roar that rattles the pagoda tower windows. Tom Lanphier rolls to a stop, pops his canopy, and stands on the seat like a Roman charioteer, both arms raised. Ground crew are already running, screaming, waving rising sun meatball flags torn from down zeros. One by one, the Lightnings land, 14 out of 16. 2 pilots are already confirmed safe on the water, rafts spotted by a Catalina. A miracle. Rex Barber is last. Miss Virginia rolls past the crowd, starboard engine coughing on burnt valves, port boom peppered with 20-millimeter holes you could throw a cat through. Barber's face is gray with exhaustion, but his eyes are wild, almost frightened by what he just did. Rusty Kowalski is waiting at the revetment, arms crossed, cigarette finally lit. When Barber climbs down on legs that won't stop shaking, Rusty doesn't say a word, just hands him a warm Coke and points at the treble clef safety wire still gleaming on the wastegate linkage. Barber stares at it like it's the Shroud of Turin. "You did this to all of them?" he asks, voice cracking. "Every damn one I could reach before they taxied. Figured if one of you hotshots lived long enough to brag, the brass would have to listen." Lanphier walks up, flight helmet tucked under his arm. He looks from the wire to Rusty, then to the operations tent where Colonel Paul Wurtsmith, CO of the 347th Fighter Group, is already storming out with a face like thunder. Wurtsmith is a West Point martinet who believes regulations are written in the blood of men who ignored them. "Which one of you sons of bitches violated Allison Technical Order 023512? He roars, waving the manual like a Bible. Every pilot suddenly discovers something fascinating on the horizon. Rusty steps forward, slow, deliberate. "That would be me, sir." Wurtsmith's eyes narrow. "Sergeant, you are looking at a general court-martial. Tampering with flight-critical components is a hanging offense in wartime." Barber starts to speak. Lanphier's hand clamps his shoulder like a vice. Rusty just smiles, small and tired. "Yes, sir. But before you hang me, maybe ask the 14 pilots who just shot down 11 confirmed zeros and 2 Bettys apiece what they think of Technical Order 023512. Wurtsmith opens his mouth, then closes it. Because the scoreboards are already going up on the pagoda. 339th Fighter Squadron, December 15th, 1942. 11 zeros confirmed, 4 probables, 2 G4M Bettys. American losses, 0 aircraft, 0 pilots. For the first time in the Pacific War, a single fighter sortie has achieved absolute air superiority without a scratch. Wurtsmith stares at the numbers, then at Rusty, then at the treble clef wire. He folds the manual very carefully and tucks it under his arm. "Sergeant Kowalski," he says, voice suddenly quiet. "Report to my office at 1600. Bring your pliers." Rusty salutes, slow and perfect. As Wurtsmith walks away, Lanphier finally lets go of Barber's shoulder. "You know what this means, don't you?" he says. Barber is still staring at the wire. "That Rusty just won the war with 20 cents worth of hardware?" "No," Lanphier answers. "It means tomorrow every squadron on this godforsaken island is going to want the Kowalski mod, and the day after that, some rear echelon colonel in Brisbane is going to try and bury it because it wasn't invented by Lockheed." Rusty flicks his cigarette into the mud. "Then we don't give them time," he says. "We wire every P-38 from here to Darwin before the paper pushers wake up. After that, let them try to court-martial the entire 13th Air Force." He turns to the broing crowd of pilots and ground crew. Word spreads faster than malaria on Guadalcanal. "Who's got pliers?" Rusty calls. "Line forms on the left. First 50 twists are free." By nightfall, every Lightning on the field sports the treble clef signature. By the end of the week, Coast Watches up the slot are reporting something new and terrifying.
Zeros breaking off the moment P-38s dive, refusing to turn with them. Pilots screaming over open mics that the American fighters have gone mad with power. And somewhere in a damp tent, a 29-year-old mechanic from Hamtramck, Michigan, who never finished high school, writes a single line in the margin of a borrowed Allison manual. Sometimes the book is wrong. Sometimes the book gets boys killed. He underlines it twice. Because the next Japanese ace who thinks the Zero still owns the turning fight is about to meet 2,850 horsepower that refuses to bleed off at the worst possible moment. And that ace's name, though no one knows it yet, is about to become the most famous casualty of Rusty Kowalski's stupid little wire trick. April 18th, 1943, 07:45 hours, briefing HUD, Fighter 2 Strip, Kukum Field, Guadalcanal. The air inside is blue with cigarette smoke and the sour smell of men who haven't slept. A single fan turns lazily overhead, doing nothing but moving the heat around. 16 pilots sit on benches that used to be ammo crates. Every one of them is flying a Kowalski-wired P-38 today. The modification still doesn't have an official name. The pilots just call it the Rusty. On the wall hangs a grainy reconnaissance photograph, a single G-4M Betty bomber, ringed in red grease pencil. Below it, in block letters, someone added with a bayonet. Target, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Time on target, 0935 local. Do not, repeat do not, be late. Colonel Paul Wartsmith stands at the front, no manual in his hand this time. Instead, he holds a single sheet of onion skin, decrypted magic intercept, the most secret document any man in this room has ever seen. Gentlemen, he says, voice low, the commander-in-chief of the Japanese combined fleet took off from Rabaul 23 minutes ago. He thinks he's on a routine inspection tour. He's wrong. A ripple moves through the room, half belief, half hunger. Wartsmith continues. Flight time to Bougainville, 2 hours and 10 minutes at economical cruise. We have exactly one shot. 4-ship killer flight will make the intercept. The rest of you are top cover. If a single Zero gets through, we lose the war in one morning. He pauses, looks straight at Rex Barber and Tom Lanphier, both now flight leaders. Questions? Dead silence, just the fan creaking. Lanphier raises a hand anyway. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. If we bring Yamamoto back alive, do we still get to keep the beer? A nervous laugh breaks the tension like a cracked knuckle. Wartsmith almost smiles. Negative. But you'll get something better. You'll get the rest of your lives knowing you changed history with a piece of wire and a bad attitude. He drops the brief. No more words needed. Outside, the Kowalski-wired lightnings are already turning, perhaps biting the humid air. Ground crew have painted fresh slogans on the noses in whitewash. Diaper run. Rusty's Revenge, meat delivery for Tojo. Rex Barber straps into Miss Virginia. Same airplane, new coat of paint, same treble clef twist still shining on the waistgates. Rusty himself is there, kneeling on the wing, checking the linkage one last time. Barber catches his eye. If we pull this off, they'll name a highway after you. Rusty snorts. I just want a hot shower and a girl who doesn't smell like avgas. Bring me Yamamoto's hat. We'll call it square. Engines cough, catch, settle into that deep Allison thunder. 16 twin-tailed devils taxi out, drop tanks heavy with 300 gallons each, enough to get them to Bougainville and maybe, just maybe, back. As they turn onto the runway, Barber glances at his manifold gauges. Both needles sit steady at 35 inches, waiting. He pushes the throttles forward. The needles climb like they've been set free. 44, 52, 60, and they do not tremble. Barber smiles behind the oxygen mask. Somewhere over the horizon, the architect of Pearl Harbor is cruising at 15,000 feet in perfect formation, sipping tea, utterly unaware that a Detroit grease monkey's 20-cent heresy is already closing on him at 350 knots. Barber keys the mic one time before takeoff. "This one's for you, Rusty." The first 4 lightnings thunder down the strip, rotate together, and climb into a sky that suddenly feels too small for what is about to happen. At 0934 hours, exactly on the second, they will find Yamamoto's formation south of Bougainville, and the Pacific War will turn on a twist of wire no Lockheed engineer ever signed off on.
April 18, 1943, 9:34 hours, 30 miles south of Moyle Point, Bougainville. Altitude, 4,500 feet. Visibility, unlimited. Sea state, flat calm, like polished glass. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's personal Mitsubishi G4M1 Betty flies straight and level at 180 knots. Port wingtip exactly 50 feet from its escort Betty, carrying Chief of Staff Vice Admiral Matome Ugaki. 6 A6M3 Zeros weave overhead in 2 3-ship sections. Lazy, bored, certain no American fighter can reach this far. They are wrong by exactly 60 seconds. Captain Tom Lanfear's killer flight ghosts in at wave-top height, 50 feet off the water. Throttles firewalled at 66 inches. The Kowalski wire holds. Every Allison is singing in perfect, unholy harmony. Rex Barber is on Lanfear's wing, heart hammering so hard the gun sight blurs. He can already see the red Hinamaru on the lead Betty's tail. He can see the Admiral's white uniform through the greenhouse windows. Lanfear's voice is ice over the radio. "Killer flight, execute. I've got the lead Betty. Barber, take the second. Holmes, Moore, keep the Zeros busy. Go." 4 P-38s yank up in a perfectly synchronized climb, drop tanks tumbling away like bombs. The Zeros never see them until the Lightnings are already inside 1,000 yards and closing at 450 knots. The Japanese formation explodes in panic. Zeros roll inverted and dive for the deck, trying to get below the Americans. Too late. The P-38s blow through them at combined closing speed of nearly 800 miles per hour. Barber never touches his throttles. The Rusty mod keeps manifold pressure pinned at 66 inches, even as he hauls Ms. Virginia into a screaming left turn that grays his vision. The second Betty fills his windshield, big, silver, fragile. He presses the trigger. The 20mm cannon in the nose speaks once, twice. The Betty's left engine disintegrates in orange fire. A wing folds upward like paper. Barber walks the .50s forward, stitching the fuselage from tail to cockpit. Glass shatters, fuel ignites. The bomber rolls belly up and dives straight into the jungle on Bougainville, exploding in a black-orange mushroom that climbs 1,000 feet. Barber has no time to watch. 2 Zeros are already on his tail, cannons flashing. He snap rolls right, dives for the trees, then yanks both throttles through the gate again. The wastegates never flinch. The Allisons answer with a roar that rattles his teeth. The Zeros try to follow the turn. They stall. One spins into the jungle, trailing smoke. The second overshoots, canopy glinting as the pilot stares down in disbelief at the American fighter that simply refuses to bleed energy. Barber reverses hard, climbs straight at the second Zero. The Japanese pilot breaks upward, straight into Barber's gun sight. A 3-second burst. The Zero disintegrates mid-air, wings shearing off like dandelion petals. On the RT, chaos and triumph. Lanfear, splash 1 Betty. Barber, confirm the second. Barber, breathless. Confirmed burning on Bougainville, no chutes. Besby Holmes, 2 Zeros down, make it 3. Holy Christ, these things climb like homesick angels. The remaining 4 Zeros break and run northwest, engines firewalled, pilots screaming over open channels.
They will live to tell a story no one back in Rabaul will believe. American twin-engine fighters that turned inside zeros, that never lost power, that killed an admiral and vanished before escorts could even form up. At 9:38 hours, 4 minutes after first contact, the sky south of Bougainville is empty except for burning wreckage and descending parachutes that will never open. Lanfear forms the flight up, points the noses southeast. Fuel gauges read almost zero. Every pilot is flying on fumes and adrenaline. Lanfear keys the mic one last time. Cactus Control, this is Killer Red 1. Tell the world the bastard is dead. Heading home. Far below, in the smoking crater that used to be Admiral Yamamoto's airplane, a white uniform sleeve is visible among the twisted aluminum. A naval sword lies bent beside it. The architect of Pearl Harbor died without ever knowing that the instrument of his death was a 20-cent piece of safety wire twisted into the shape of a treble clef by a mechanic who once got suspended from high school for rebuilding a teacher's Ford in the parking lot overnight. At Henderson Field, Rusty Kowalski is already waiting at the end of the runway, cigarette glowing, arms crossed. When the first P-38 touches down at 12:17 hours, he doesn't cheer with the others. He just looks up at the sky, exhales smoke, and says quietly, to no one in particular, "Told you the book was wrong."
May 21st, 1943, 1400 hours. Headquarters, 13th Air Force, Espiritu Santo. The heat is a living thing, thick as wet wool. A ceiling fan does nothing but push the humidity around. Technical Sergeant James Rusty Kowalski stands at attention in a pressed khaki shirt that still smells of mothballs. His shoes are so shiny they reflect the face of the two-star general in front of him. He has never felt more out of place in his life. Major General Nathan Twining clears his throat and reads from a single sheet of paper. For extraordinary achievement in aerial combat operations against the enemy, for the development of a field modification to the Allison V1710 engine supercharger system that dramatically increased combat effectiveness of the P-38 Lightning, resulting in the destruction of enemy aircraft far beyond previous expectation and contributing directly to the success of Operation Vengeance. Twining pauses, looks up. The room is packed. Pilots in starched suntans, Lockheed engineers in civilian suits, a Navy Rear Admiral who flew down just to watch, and every correspondent who could beg a seat on a transport. Twining folds the citation, steps forward, and pins the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest award America can give a living soldier, directly over Rusty's heart. The room erupts. Cameras flash like artillery. Rex Barber and Tom Lanfear are in the front row, grinning like kids who just got away with murder. Rusty stares straight ahead, face burning. He can feel the ribbon against his skin, and it feels heavier than any engine block he ever lifted. When the clapping finally dies, Twining leans in close enough that only Rusty hears. "Washington wanted to bury this, Sergeant. They said safety wire tricks don't win wars. I told them wars are won by men who refuse to let boys die because some engineer in Burbank was afraid of liability." Rusty swallows. "Yes, sir." Twining steps back, salutes, actually salutes a sergeant first, and says to the room, "Gentlemen, the United States Army Air Forces hereby adopts Technical Sergeant Kowalski's modification as official procedure for all P-38, P-39, and P-40 units in this theater, effective immediately. The new technical order will be designated TO-02-35-12K. The K is for Kowalski." A ripple of laughter, then real applause. Slow, deep, the kind that comes from men who know they owe their lives to the man in front of them. Later, outside, under the coconut palms, the pilots try to carry Rusty to the officers' club on their shoulders. He fights them off, red-faced, until Barber shoves a cold bottle of San Miguel into his hand.
To the greasiest son of a bitch who ever saved our asses, Lanfear toasts. Rusty drinks, wipes his mouth, and mutters, "I still ain't an officer, sir. You're buying." They drink until the sun drops into the Pacific like a molten shell casing. Years later, when historians argue about turning points, Midway, Guadalcanal, Yamamoto, they will miss the real one. They will miss the night a Polish-American kid from Michigan decided the book was wrong. They will miss the treble-clef twist that let 16 Lightnings fly 900 miles round-trip on fumes and fury, kill the best strategic mind Japan had, and come home laughing. And they will never quite understand why, in every P-38 cockpit from New Guinea to Aishima, pilots taped a tiny scrap of 0.040 safety wire above the instrument panel. Twisted exactly 4 loops, snipped clean, shaped like a perfect little musical note. A reminder. A talisman. A promise that when everything is on the line, sometimes the smallest twist of wire and the stubborn bastard who won't follow the book can change the course of the world.
August 14, 1945. 1923 hours. USS Missouri, Tokyo Bay. The Japanese delegation stands in perfect silence while the surrender documents are signed. Overhead, a flight of P-38s from the 49th Fighter Group streaks past in victory roll, twin booms glinting gold in the setting sun. Every single one of them still carries Rusty Kowalski's treble clef twist on the waistgates. The modification never got removed. It just got copied, refined, stamped approved, and quietly shipped to every Allison-powered fighter from Burma to Berlin. Rusty himself is not on the Missouri. He's back in Hamtramck, Michigan, standing in the kitchen of a tiny brick house on Joseph Campow Avenue, still in uniform because the Army forgot to discharge him for 3 extra months. His mother is crying into her apron. His father, a Ford trimline worker who never said much, keeps filling Rusty's shot glass with Wyboro Lodka and muttering, "Moi sin, moi sin." On the radio, President Truman is speaking. Rusty isn't listening. He's staring at a small package that arrived that morning from the Pentagon. Inside is his original pair of Klein's pliers, the ones he used on Henderson Field, now chromed, engraved, and mounted on mahogany. A note in Twining's handwriting says, "You'll never buy your own drink again. N." Rusty sets the pliers on the windowsill next to his Distinguished Service Cross and goes back to drinking with his old man. Years roll by. 1952. Lockheed test pilot Tony Levere clocks a modified P-38 at 480 miles per hour in level flight, using nothing more exotic than Kowalski-wired superchargers left over from wartime birds. The Air Force classifies the report. They're still embarrassed. 1969. A barn-find P-38 in New Guinea is pulled from the jungle. The wastegate on the port engine still carries a perfect, faded treble clef. The restoration crew leaves it exactly as is. The airplane now hangs in the National Air and Space Museum. 1985. An elderly Japanese man visits the Chiron Peace Museum. He is Saburo Sakai, greatest living zero ace, 64 victories. A reporter asks what American fighter he feared most. Sakai answers without hesitation, the twin-engine one that turned like a zero, but never slowed down. We called it Akumo no Kaze, devil wind. He still has nightmares about 66 inches of mercury that refuse to bleed off. 1997. Rusty Kowalski dies quietly at age 82 in a veterans hospital in Dearborn. No cameras, no speeches. Just his daughter holding one hand and an old grease-stained rag in the other. His last words, according to the nurse, were, "Tell the boys the book was still wrong." 2023. A kid in Texas is restoring a P-38 for air shows. He can't find the original TO on wastegate safety wiring, so he searches for forums. Someone posts a grainy 1943 photo of a treble clef twist and writes, "Old-timers swear by it. Never breaks, never has." The kid tries it. The restored Lightning becomes the fastest P-38 flying again. And somewhere, every time a twin Allison roars overhead, a few old ghosts lean back, light unfiltered Luckies that don't exist anymore, and grin at each other. Because wars are won by armies, strategies are written by generals, and history is shaped by admirals in spotless whites. But every once in a great while, the entire turning wheel of the world pivots on 20 cents worth of stainless wire, and one stubborn mechanic who decided a boy's life was worth more than a page in a manual. The treble clef is still out there. Look close on any warbird Lightning that still flies. You'll find it. Small, perfect, illegal then, immortal now. It never broke. It never will.